For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss the recent attacks in Parliament. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Your article outlines the way in which the rules of Parliament and constitutionalism were undermined in the entry of security forces to evict the EFF. What does this mean for our democracy?
You know, there are a lot of things that have happened in the last 5 years, 7 years, and in some ways one thought one had seen everything there was to be seen. But I think everyone was very shocked, and in fact many of us didn't see what was happening until later when I looked on Twitter and I saw what the parliamentary camera was not covering. And, you know, one had this picture of Thandi Modise saying, sit down, this, that and the other. We didn't know what was happening. And I think that this has been a very serious situation where instead of trying to address differences in a way that people like Mandela would have sat down with other parties and negotiated a way out of it. Now the problem has been that they had made up their mind, they had planned this, and they intended to rough up the EFF. And Mbete says that more or less, that they knew what they were going to do. She seemed more or less to have admitted that they bugged the meetings of the EFF. And it seems to me that they've created a situation where, insofar as Parliament is supposed to be the primary debating forum of the country, debate and violence are incompatible. And there has to be an element of responsibility to try to get things back to where you can have that culture of debate. But I think what we've seen in Parliament is part of a wider attack on institutions of democracy. We've seen attempts to influence the composition of the judiciary in a way that you will not have judges who question parliamentary legislation. You've seen the undermining of the national prosecuting authorities, the Hawks, SARS. SARS is a very, very good example of an institution that seemed to be just run professionally, like the Treasury is run professionally, but they asked questions. They said to the President, look, you are liable for fringe benefits because of Nkandla. They wouldn't clear ANC T-shirts that were imported unless they paid VAT. And Parliament's turn has come, and what I think was interesting is that for the first time the opposition in post-apartheid South Africa was making the running, in the sense that when the EFF appeared, the ANC was at first nonplussed, and the DA went along with the EFF at first, although now they're trying to put a bit of a distance between themselves and the EFF. But because of the unwillingness of the ANC to hold Zuma accountable, they had to take steps to round up the EFF. Now, that's not to say that what the EFF did is acceptable, because you can't have permanent disruption of Parliament. However, ultimately we are not dealing with political matters in the sense of ideology. What you're dealing with is not only party loyalty, because some people say that it's wrong that the ANC members are accountable to the organization and not to Parliament. What is happening is that they are their loyalty to an individual, whatever he does, is overriding even their belief in any ideologies, National Democratic Revolution, ANC and all of that. Their duty, as they see it, to defend him from accountability is overriding. And that is the problem that we face. I'm not sure how we're going to resolve it.
And now, what are the prospects for the future?
The way I see it is that this matter is not going to be resolved in Parliament. It could be resolved if there was a common agreed social basis of democracy which everyone agreed they wanted to defend. Now, it used to be said of Britain that whether you had the Conservatives or the Labour Party in power, they both had a commitment to the institutional structures of British democracy, so they would have, neither of them would alter certain fundamental things. Now, the problem that we have here is that the ANC is not committed to constitutionalism. The EFF is really itself fairly cavalier about constitutionalism, although they have grasped onto this one thing of Nkandla. The DA has shown in the Western Cape that it is also not absolutely committed to carrying out constitutional rule in its provision of social services. We know this with the toilet facilities and other and water provision, number of other things, and illegal evictions, not only in Rwanda, in other places, that the DA is also not showing it. So we have a problem that the primary actor is not really any longer committed to the conditions that make democracy sustainable. It then makes it likely that this matter will be addressed in the courts. The DA are likely to go to court. Maybe the Helen Suzman Foundation will also go to court. But my view is that it's important for the voice of citizens to be heard, that we as citizens of the country many of us fought very hard to have the democracy that we've got, whatever its limitations, and we need to find a way of joining together a number of people from a number of sectors of society to take steps to recover this, to get a unifying vision which is not party political partisan, not anti-ANC, not pro-DA, pro-EFF, but around these basic principles of the Constitution.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about the recent attacks in Parliament.